Welcome, vocal friend. My guest today is Grammy nominated vocalist, composer, songwriter, educator, and producer Magos Herrera. Her latest album, Aire, was released on Sunnyside Records in 2023. And so far, she has released 10 albums. So lots to talk about. And I'm thrilled that she is joining me today. Hi, Magos. Super excited that you're here today.
Elizabeth, lovely to see you, all sunny and beautiful. Happy to share some time talking about this thing that we love with the people that are listening.
Yes, for sure. We've known each other for many years now.
More than a decade, my friend.
Yeah. I think I met you when you were recording at my studio back in the day, or even before. I'm not sure.
Even before, probably. I mean, we met through our friend Beat Kensley, and
Yes.
and I and I met him probably like around 15 years ago. So
Very soon after you moved to New York, right?
right, we moved 16 years ago. So
Yeah.
so it's been a journey.
Tell me about it. So let's talk a little bit about your background. So you were born in Mexico City, born and raised, I should say. And you, for a while there, I read, you moved back and forth between Mexico and Europe, and also I think LA, where you studied with this jazz singer Kevin Leto. You were talking about growing up in a musical family, or at least more in like an artistic family, where your parents promoted basically any appreciation of the arts. And I read that you studied dance for many years. And that makes so much sense to me now. I didn't know this about you because I've seen you perform and you know, you do so much with your hands when you perform and with your stature. It's suddenly it all makes sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, by the way, Kevin Leto, I'm so happy that you mentioned her because this is an incredible singer that actually changed my future as a singer. Kevin Leto, German singer that lives in Los Angeles. She teach at I don't know where she's teaching now, but I met her in Los Angeles back in the days, and she used to be part of Sergio Mendes' vocal crew, and I loved her because she was my introduction to jazz singing, but she loved Brazilian music. And so it was like the first time that I was like, okay, so you can pick from different sources and just be true to yourself, but still, have this root or this starting point as a jazz singer. So yeah, Kevin Leto is amazing. And then, yeah, I mean, I come from a family, as you well said, that appreciate arts and art expressions, and I danced for many years. I wanted to be a contemporary dancer. That's what I wanted to do in life until I started to study music, and then I understood that I needed to pick or focus in one thing, and I chose music. But then I guess throughout time, without not consciously, but I also studied in Europe fashion design, and I guess throughout time all things start to come together, and I design some of the things that I use on stage, and just it's not that I think about it, but maybe all the years of training just manifest through singing. And also I think dancing and all the body connection that I developed throughout time. Um, it's been a very special part of my singing journey, as you well know. Like yeah, like the relationship with your all the body awareness and how to create or how to find your instrument and your sound, and it's so related to my voice, to my body awareness and process.
It's funny that you mentioned your fashion design background because I had a question on my list about that.
Oh my god.
Because I mean, you told me before that you sew some of your costumes, and I love your costumes, like your stage clothes, I should say. They're not really costumes, but they kind of are. Like it all flows together. There's the stuff you wear, your makeup, the hair, your posture, your movement, your sound. It's all one thing. Like it all kind of gelled into this one performance art that you do.
Mm.
So I guess it makes perfect sense. Like you had all these different influences, and yes, you had to choose your main lane, but you allow everything else to influence the core of your expression.
I think so. And I mean, I wish I was more talented, not to had to be like extremely focused. But that's, that's how my brain works. The kind of, I guess, how my career developed and the kind of musicians that I interact with and the kind of music that I end up writing. And it just keeps asking for more focused and to
Yep.
learn more and to, to deepen into the music writing, and it keeps demanding commitment and focus, I guess, into one thing. But at the end of the day, I think, and that's one of the beauties of being in New York, as you well know, is like there are so many incredible artists and that keep inspiring us, and that you really need to focus in what your voice is and what you have to say, and be true to that statement, to that truth. No?
So in a way, you have to continue to whittle it down, like to really bore into the essence of what it is you want to express. It's like a constant process, almost like a sculptor who keeps taking off another layer and another layer in a way. Do you agree?
I love it. Yeah, I love that image. Yes, my yoga teacher would say, like an onion. But
Yes.
I like more the idea of the sculpture.
It's a bit
I
more
think
artsy.
it's more artsy. I mean, that's the process of being an artist, I guess. Like to keep discovering, and I love the idea. I really love the idea that we never get into the end of the journey. Like because we're always transforming as human beings, and as we transform, our expression transforms as well, and it's affected by that transformation. So just the idea of discovery and what is going to be revealed on my next album, or on my next performance, on my next, I like that spirit of discovery, and also keeps our hearts young, and our whatever we want to say, more truthful and exciting. And
Let's go into the music right away. What I have noticed with you over the years, like you had these big blocks of creative essence, I guess, or sound. You had your time in Mexico when you released, I think, 5 albums that were, I would assume, steeped in your life in Mexico and your experience in Mexico City and so on. And then you moved to New York, and then you had all these heavy hitters that you worked with. John Patitucci and Lionel Lueke, I think was one. And the list is a pretty long list. And then you did another one like this and did the 2 albums with Javier Limon.
nicely pronounced.
Well, thank you. I'm practicing. Estoy practicando. And and toured with that, which was like, I feel like really another condensing into like just duo. It's so intimate. And then with the album that you did, Dreamers, when you did Dreamers with Brooklyn Rider, that to me was another strong departure because suddenly there was this vibe of chamber music, chamber orchestra, string quartet. So, like, can you? I know this is a pretty far-reaching question, but can you talk us a little bit through this arc in your career so far and how maybe one step built on the other?
Wow, I mean, it,
Sorry.
it's a beautiful question, because I never look back, and to tell you the truth, I don't question my process from an stylistic angle. I, I guess, talking about curiosity, as we were talking about before, I guess I'm just curious, and although I grew up as a jazz singer, and my surrounding is very much jazzy, in the sense that that's how I grew up with, that's what I teach. That my husband is a jazz drummer, my friends are jazz musicians, and jazz singers, as yourself. So and I guess what I love about jazz, and it's the freedom that it implies. It nurtures your curiosity, but at the same time, I don't like definitions, because talking about transformation and beyond music, one of the things that I treasure the most is my freedom, but freedom from myself. And I guess in my adventure and my journey as a musician, I try to approach every new project with absolute freedom. And and obviously as time goes by, that approach only gets more mature in the sense that maybe when I started making music, I thought about it and I was like, oh my god, how that do I put this and that together? And these days, I one thing lead to another, and when I see the current of discography, yes, it started with a lot of songwriting. I used to play the guitar, and a lot of the songs came from my guitar playing. So they have certain nature and certain kind of lineups. And I used to live in Mexico City, so the narrative was very local in terms of the songwriting, and very Latin American. And then, but I had a beautiful career in Mexico. I had a TV show, and my albums were like very well received by the audience and the media, and I had a beautiful career. And but I was still, I'm always thirsty of revealing new things. So we moved to New York, and I wanted to try different things, and that's how I started to work with these musicians that you mentioned: Lionel, Lueke, uh, Luis Perdomo, Aaron Goldberg, John Patitucci, Tim Rees. And that, when I just moved to New York, those first albums sound very much like New York. Like it was like, oh my God, this is the New York muscle. But I guess I never try to depart from who I am. And there are so many incredible jazz singers in New York that I understood very quick that the only way to survive in such a complicated and a complex scene was to really be true to myself. So I didn't try to become like a straight ahead jazz singer, or because that's not who I am. So I just tried to put elements together and these kind of lineups. And I it's very interesting because, as you well said, these incredible musicians, New York musicians, it's kind of like a very strong muscle. And in order for as a jazz singer to lead this kind of lineups with such strong musicians, force you to be the kind of singer that really needs to push to lead. And I toured like that for many years, and it was a great experience to become a very strong singer, like as a muscle, like very strong to lead. And my songwriting was decreasing as I became more, like things changed the balance. And I used to write a few songs for each album, but I work into more in arrangements. And but then, as you well said, I met Javier Limon in a concert. After a concert I gave at Jazz at Lincoln Center, I knew of Javier because he's a very well-known producer from Spain, and all singers, like world music singers, want to be produced by him. And he approached me. He said, "I would love to work with you." And I didn't know exactly how, because I'm not a flamenco singer or but I love discovery. So I was like, okay, let's see what comes out from this, and let's just do it. He's more a producer than a guitar player, and I come from these incredible, super gifted musicians, jazz musicians that are, as we know, very, very strong and with so many resources. And all of a sudden, I'm in this circumstance with a duo where, he's an incredible producer, but not a jazz musician. So there was a lot of space. So for 3 or 4 years, it was one of the most incredible experiences because it was the first time in my whole career that, although I didn't have a jazz comp and the certain harmonic sophistication and not the interplays that we're used to hear as jazz singers in a jazz context, there was so much space. And Javier, who works for so many incredible singers, knows where to put the right chord and gives that space and makes you feel that okay, I'm a singer. It's the first time that I hear my voice, like, oh my god, this is my voice. this is my voice. It's silly what I'm saying, but it's the truth. It's the first time that I actually saw and related with my voice as a sound thing and as a storyteller, as crazy as that sound. And I had already released 5 or 6 albums, but it was a beautiful, beautiful, revealing experience. And naturally, and then I understood that there is certain quality of my voice. And also it was very nice because, we had to carry a concert as a duo for 4 years, that I had to carry the show with Javier. So it was also, it helped me in a different way. But naturally, after that, and after discovering the sound of my voice, I understood that it has a woody quality, and I was like, if I have a woody quality, I want to work with woody instruments. And then I met Brooklyn Ryder in a National Sawdust Gala, and I love the spirit of these guys, and they're also very open-minded. They don't talk about definitions, genres. Like, they're really incredible. And I was like, why don't we just do something together, but putting everything together again, like arrangers that are not only Latin American, but they're incredible jazz musicians, and they also understand the classical and chamber music world. So the arrangements it's not a jazz string quartet comping me, but it's a whole conversation throughout the album. So it was a beautiful learning process to work with the arrangers in that sense, to find like a nice conversation among the instruments, and to see the incredible devotion of classical musicians to their instruments. To me, it was so revealing, and so I felt so humble, when the first rehearsal, when they start playing together, I was like, wow, this is going to be a journey. Like, they're really powerful, and they really play together, and it's just a completely different understanding of how they approach music. And I put myself in the position just to learn, and it's been I guess it's one of the most incredible musical experiences I've ever had. And then naturally, I loved it. We loved it. We probably will do something in the future again. And we toured for years, with a pandemic in the middle. And then naturally, I just wanted to put the two worlds together, and that's my recent album. So my jazz quartet with strings. So
Whole lot more strings, though.
yeah. A little bit more strings.
A little bit more strings. It's a whole orchestra on Aire. And am I pronouncing that right? Is it Aire or is it Aire, or how do you say it?
Aire.
Aire. Okay, Aire. So on Aire, you're working with the Knights, right? That's the orchestra.
The reason why I wanted to do it with an orchestra is because it's a post-pandemic album that celebrates coming together and celebrates life, and and celebrates our humanity. So I wanted it to be grand in that sense, and it was just natural. It's kind of like the same drive, just expanded, and I worked with the same arrangers, which it's like the perfect formula. So it's Diego Esquisi from Argentina, Gonzalo Grau from Venezuela, and Jacques Morelenbaum from Brazil, and they all are incredible musicians that understand these three worlds and that are open enough to work with me in around the arrangements in the way that I need them. And so it's been an incredible journey. And by the way, if people are around on February 29th, I'm gonna perform with the Knights at Carnegie Hall, a piece of Chico Buarque. So it's if New Yorkers are around, Carnegie Hall is going to be the place.
Excellent. A nice plug. That's perfect. Where did the title come from for Aire?
So Aire means air, and airs, and the qualities of air, right? Like the flow, the transformation, ease. And I think after the pandemic, when we experienced what we experienced, I felt that, first of all, I needed a lighter album in terms of narrative and energy. I wanted to be an album that inspires you to move forward, just like the air. I wanted the main song, which is Aire, to be a song that invites you to move, to dance, to come together, to hug each other, to kiss each other, to touch each other. So it's kind of like a sensual song as well, but also like it's a celebration of what makes us human. So I included some pieces like Gracias a la Vida, which is like a Latin American classic by Violeta Parra, which means thanks to life. And it's an idea of gratitude to all the things that are invisible to the eye, but that they actually give purpose and meaning to our existence. These little things. So I think all these things that we experienced during lockdown were really revealing, and I wanted to celebrate that. And we are survivors. And I also, of course, honor all the people that we lost too, with a few pieces in the album. But I think I'm amazed that we lived that we went through this moment in life, in history, living lockdown, and how that transformed us and transformed our new culture, which I don't love all of it, but I love some of it. And so hopefully we won't forget.
By the way, I checked out Con Alma, like that production that you did in a collaboration with a
With
composer. I forgot her name. Yes.
Paola Prestini. Yeah.
And so you made these amazing, amazing videos. I know that that's the piece, or that's the project that you created during lockdown, right?
Right.
And I mean, some of that footage is just breathtaking. And again, the costumes and the wide shots and the flowiness of it. It's like, oh my God, Jesus. But at the same time, like I looked at it, and there are these cuts of our fellow musicians sitting at home in their studios recording their parts. And I looked at it and it made me so sad,
Hmm.
because not because of the way it looks, because it's absolutely gorgeous, but it just reminded me of how isolating it was, and how much we need to make music together in the same room. We coped. I mean, a lot of us put out, made something during the pandemic because that's what we do. But at the same time, as you just said, with Aire, once like you let out again, you just want to breathe, and you just want to sing and dance and run and fly basically with other people. So it was an amazing reminder for me to see that, because we do kind of forget a little bit,
I think so.
which is amazing that we forget so quickly.
3 years ago. So Con Alma means with soul, and it was inspired and taken from Dizzy Gillespie's Con Alma classic. But I guess that's why I wanted to do Aire with such a light or luminous spirit, because Con Alma, when you hear Con Alma, as you said, is a project that I produced along with composer Paola Prestini, which is a very, very dear friend of mine. It's an album that when you hear it, you hear that we're in lockdown. So it's beautiful. But we know that we're in this moment, that we're suspended in time, that we're recording from home, that we don't understand exactly what's going on, that we're on the edge. But also, it's a hopeful album, and the beauty of it is that we all recorded from home. People, this vocal ensemble from Germany, and musicians from Mexico, and some in New York, and some in Brazil, and like all over the place. And the work that our sound engineer did with, I mean, it's incredible. Like it sounds like an incredible professional album. So yay to Alex Benger, because he's amazing. But I mean, in terms of spirit, that's why I really wanted to do a luminous album. And by the way, it's such an incredible story that we're going to release a documentary on that album this year. So stay tuned for Con Alma documentary.
I think that's a wonderful idea. And I have to say, I mean, when I heard that vocal ensemble, oh my God. I mean,
Aren't they
they're
amazing?
so precise and so clear and so on point. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
They're amazing. They're called Ciela, and these women, they're from Germany, and they actually, I mean, Paola wrote these pieces for them, and it turns out that we were doing the album. But then we did a concert, a couple of concerts for the documentary, and blah blah, and in Mexico, San Miguel de Allende, and at the UN in March last year. And as you all said, they're incredible. They're like so precise. And we learned that they grew up together singing in a choir. So I mean, yeah, they're like sisters. Like they it's like one voice, and they're also incredibly sensitive about interpretation. And actually, when I heard them singing for the first time live in Mexico, while we were rolling the documentary, we did this thing of coming together for the very first time together in one room in this church and in San Miguel de Allende. And our first encounter was to improvise together, the six voices and myself. And it was a very emotional experience. But also when they start singing, and then a piece of Paola is the time when I understood Paola's writing. Incredible, right? Like how you were like, oh my god, this is Paola. Like, and I know her for 16 years. So it's like, wow, that there are these incredible artists that got the thing right. And that's why we're going to do another project together.
I think that's fantastic news.
Yes.
But there's such a thing. I mean, when you told me that now that they basically grew up together, that I used to sing with my sisters. We grew up then we sang three-part harmony Austrian folk songs for many, many years before I moved to New York. Like we started performing together when I was 6 years old. And it is something that, and they've moved on to sing with other people. And it works. It's all good. But when we sing together, it's just something falls into place. It just clicks and it works. We breathe together. We don't have to look at each other. We breathe together. The harmony is there. It's like it's something that is very, I think it's very precious when you have that and when you've had that experience.
Yeah, and also because it has to do with what you know of each other, the places that you grew, that you perform. That I mean, I don't know. It's just such an intangible thing. I also have these nieces that they're twins, and they're both singers. And it's the same thing when they sing together. It's like, oh my god, like it's one voice, and it's so much to learn about that, I think.
And it's something that's very natural. It's just it grows very naturally.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your creative process. And I'm assuming that this will have changed over the years, but how it is for you today. Like, how do you approach songwriting, or how do you approach starting a new project, starting a new album? You were talking earlier about you approaching everything with the idea of freedom. And I think if I heard you correctly, you said freedom from yourself. What do you do? How do you start a project? Or even, let's say, like, where do you go for inspiration? Do you go to musicians? Do you go to books? Do you go into nature? Do you go into meditation? How does your creative process work for you most times?
I mean, I guess different projects have different sources of inspiration. Like, for instance, Con Alma, I was locked down in San Miguel de Allende in nature. So it clearly, and the documentary talks about it, it's, my connection with nature and acknowledging myself as part of nature. And everything is, all the narrative is around that and connection with others. But it's, it was actually but Aire, it's a continuation of that process. So my songwriting has to do with nature and my experience as a human being in this body. Mm, All that you said, meditation, books, conversations, my human experience in general. But I think I'm not a prolific songwriter. So what I mean is that it's not that I'm always writing songs. I start writing when I have a project, and I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna write a new album, and this is the spirit, this is the main the main theme of the album, and I try to be very concrete because my mind doesn't work as concrete as I'm trying to be. So this is the album. The spirit is luminosity and aire. So what can I do around it? And then I start writing, and I don't have a formula. It could be a progression that suggests a melody, or it could be a melody, and then I go to the progression, or it can be a text that I wrote and then that becomes a song, or the other way around. So I don't have like a methodology that I follow. It. I just allow myself to go into this space of time where I'm going to write a certain amount of songs, and around certain narrative. And I also allow myself to bring music that it's not mine, that I want to make mine. Songs that I love from other writers, and that resonate with the narrative. And so it's not that I want to be only a songwriter, or I love to sing story. I want to tell a whole story. That's the point for me. Is to tell a whole story and to bring elements from different things to make it happen. But I have to say that I try, when I'm in a creative process, I try not to go to listen to other musicians. And I guess I do that consciously because I try to be as truthful to myself as possible. And I love so many artists and so many singers and so many, that I try to stay away from that. When I'm not writing, I listen to everyone, and I love and enjoy listening to other artists. But when I'm in a process, I try to have zero interference from the outside world in terms of how I'm going to approach a song or how I'm going to approach a narrative. But yeah, books. I'm looking exactly like right now into this beautiful book from Maria Sabina. Let me show it to you. So it's interesting how the stories come together. So Conaire, after we offer these concerts in Mexico City right after the pandemic of Conalma. So musicians from Europe, from everyone come together in Mexico. We offer a concert, people still wearing masks and everything. And the concert was a little dense. It was Conalma, music written during the pandemic. So at the end of the concert, we felt that we needed something. Okay, that happened, but now we need an invitation for people to move on. And so we were in this residence in Mexico, and my guitar player Vinicius and one of the co-arrangers Gonzalo Grau and myself wrote. We wanted to write a song honoring the Mexican tradition of son veracruzano, which is very Afro-oriented and syncopation, and in that concert, a friend sent me. This is so beautiful. A friend went to attend the concert in Mexico City, and he said, "Magos, you need to read Maria Sabina, who is a healer, was a healer, and is like the chamana from Mexico, right? And she used to heal with the voice." And so he sent me this audio of Maria Sabina in a healing session, singing in her native language, and all the names that she pronounced were bird sounds. Something beautiful. And 2 days after, I'm in San Miguel de Allende with the same crew, and I received this beautiful book, Maria Sabina, Soy la Mujer Remolino. It's beautiful. And it's about this, like 2 days after. So this is Maria Sabina. Look how beautiful. This is Maria Sabina. And she was a healer, and she used to heal with herbs and peyote and her voice. So we wrote a song honoring Maria Sabina, but also kind of like an invocation to call the healers within us, all of us. How can we come together and heal each other, which is what we needed after the pandemic, and we still do. So that's the last song of Aire. So like inspiration can come from very unexpected places. This was the inspiration behind Healer. So
Yeah, you never know where it comes from, as long as you have to stay open to it.
exactly. Talking about freedom, right?
Yeah, freedom and not too many preconceptions. I mean, we all have them. We all work within the framework of our lives, or we all move within the frameworks of our lives, but then maybe to allow the possibility of something else to enter, I think. So what do you do when you get stuck?
That never happens.
Oh, lucky you. Lucky you.
Of course, I'm kidding.
I know.
Oh my God.
Nobody I know never gets stuck. That just doesn't happen. I mean, we all hit the wall at some point.
I know.
And that's also, I feel like for me, that's why when like starting a new project and starting something that I don't really know, where I'm moving into waters that are kind of unfamiliar to me, it scares the crap out of me. But at the same time, once you get over yourself and you get into that area of the unknown, things happen. I mean, that's where, as we all know, growth happens outside your comfort zone. So that's also true for art, especially true for art, I think.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's such an incredible thing to discuss about, because I think it can be. I mean, for many years when I got stuck, it could be painful, and like really painful, because like, as all of us, you can grow as a singer, but not so much as an instrumentalist. And then your theory is here, but then your piano skills are here, and like all the unbalances that that we have, are the things that actually make that your process get stuck sometimes. So to me, one of the very liberating things about this, was a project with Brooklyn Writer, because I felt complete. And I mean, it's a very easy thing to say, and a very, like, but I had the realization that I'm completed, that I'm a complete artist. And by no means I'm saying that I'm, like, I'm in the most incredible. I'm just saying my inner feeling was, I feel complete. And it felt so good. And I tried to understand why I feel complete. And I felt complete because my function in that particular project was, I was the artistic director, I was the singer. I focused 100% in being the singer, and to create a repertoire that works for all of us. And I gave myself the time to work through the arrangements with the arrangers, and I have the most incredible music companions that I could ever have. And so I allow myself to not do everything. And I think as jazz singers, at least that's my experience, and I think we talked about this before. I think because when we grow as a jazz singer, you have this thing that, oh my God, I have to be as incredible in all my knowledge as the pianist, but we have our limit. I mean, I do have my limitations. I'm not a pianist. I use the piano to write. I use the piano to practice, to teach, but I'm not a pianist. I'm not Luis Perdomo or Aaron Goldberg. I just have the resources that I need to complete my process. And I don't intend to be a jazz pianist. It's not in my heart is just not there. So I think at some point I understood that it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay, not even it's okay to create collaborations. I don't have to do everything, if and to me that was incredibly liberating. I don't have to have my name in all the credits, and that's perfectly fine. That serves the music to elevate. And so to me, that was one thing that it's been incredibly liberating. And that doesn't mean that I don't continue studying piano. And now I just bought a new guitar to see if I can go back to that. And that doesn't mean that you cannot keep growing, but just to have the ease to say, okay, I mean, I don't write for strings. I want to have the best possible string arrangers, and I just go there. Like, for instance, right now I'm stuck. We've been commissioned, it's a new challenge, right? We've been commissioned, Paola Plestini and myself, to write an opera for the Met. Paola writes operas. I never done that.
Wow.
Exactly. So I'm like, what? What? But then, and we chose the most difficult thing, this character from Mexican literature. So Juana Inés de la Cruz, the first Latin American feminist. She was a nun. She was the most incredible writer, and very forward thinking, but very complex. She was from the Baroque era, very complex. And so we're doing the libretto, which is something that I've never done before, but I write. So the way I'm dealing with this is exactly the same way. I'm trusting in my partner, Paola Prestini, in my music partner, for her to lead me in whatever I have to learn. I'm approaching this in a complete, humble, learning possible posture, but at the same time, I'm complete. So I know what I have to put on the table, and that's why they commission this to us. So I know what I would do, right? I write very good, and I have a good, I acknowledge the things that I do well, and I put these two things in balance, and I try to create space. Like, if I get stuck, I live this for a couple of days. I meditate. I create space to see in perspective, and and then I just start writing. And I saw this Rhiannon Giddens, which I love her career. She just wrote premiere an opera. She plays the banjo and she's a singer. And she wrote this opera. I forgot the name, but anyway, I saw an interview on her. She doesn't, and this opera is with an orchestra, and she was like, I just collaborated with a person that writes for orchestras, and I will send my lines, like with my voice singing of what I wanted this person to do. And I found it very, very honest and very liberating. And she just got the Pulitzer Prize. So it's allowing ourselves to be honest in what we're good at, and give space, I guess. But still, sometimes I get anxious about it. Of course, I mean, it's not that sometimes I get anxious, and I just leave some space between my anxiety and what I have to do. And I try not to. I observe that I usually get stuck when I don't sit every day 2 hours to practice. So I know that I have to do that in order to prevent getting stuck.
Talk to me about your practicing since you brought it up. And it's on my list as well, anyway.
Well, all depends. I mean, the most do's, like my to-do list is always, warm up, vocalize for X amount of time, and breathing. Like I have a sequence that I work with no matter what on my voice, from breathing to body work to vocalizing on the piano, intervals, a lot of body breathing, voice awareness, a lot of body work to create space within my body. So that I always do, like every day, 5 days a week. And then a little bit of piano, like literally 20 minutes, no more than that. Like warm up, some standards just to keep my fingers going, and that's it. And then repertoire. So whatever I'm working on, if it's adding new music, or learning repertoire that I need to sing for others, or just learning a new challenging thing. I always have one challenging thing just to keep my brain working. And then in terms of writing, as I said before, I only write when I have a project coming up. Like it's not something that is part of my. It should have, but it's not. The truth is that it's not. So when I get into a pre-production mode, then I write.
I think that makes perfect sense. I'm kind of the same way, especially now as I get older. I'm much more project driven than I was before. And like I had this concert in Germany in October, and it was for me a pretty big deal. It was a live concert in front of a live audience, live stream, and live recording to tape, which is going to be an album next year. I mean, this year. So sweating bullets. But I also knew that there were some songs that I needed for that project. And then that's what I did. I sat down and started writing. And by the way, I saw you at a concert downtown on Bleecker Street. You sang that song Calling, or The Calling, I think it's called. And that really stuck with me somehow. It inspired me to write one of the songs that I did then for this thing. So, and I didn't know that the inspiration would come from that concert or from you.
Oh,
But
thank you for sharing this with me. See, inspiration, it's all around us. Oh, that's so nice. I would love to hear that.
yeah, I'll send you the live recording. It's not gonna make it on the album, unfortunately. There were some technical difficulties, but anyway, and it turned out to be about my mother, which I had no intention of writing about my mother. Like I feel like that happens a lot. You start something and you start with one line of text and you just follow the lines where they lead you. And
Right.
then halfway through the song, I'm like, oh, this is about my mom. Who
Wow.
knew? You know?
Wow, I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, it's a complex song for a complex woman.
Well, mother-daughter relation is always not an easy relationship.
No, no, but also, the longest one that we have in our lives. Going back to vocal health, I want to talk a little bit more to you about vocal health since like for me that's a very important part of what we do. And when, I mean, you explained about practicing, but what happens, for instance, like what is your routine when you're on the road? Routine when you're on the road and like you really have to sing either several shows a week or several shows back to back to back. And maybe also on days when you're not really feeling your full self, or when you're feeling maybe vocally fatigued or stuff like that.
Wow. How many hours do we have here?
All right, you have 2 minutes.
So, I mean, I guess, I mean, to me, it's technique, 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 and technique, right? Because, yeah, to me, that's the key technique. Because when you're touring, as you well know, you get tired, you're dehydrated, you didn't sleep, you missed the plane, you arrived directly to the show, you are, whatever, you're down, whatever. I guess what keeps you floating is technique, and that is why I practice 5 days a week, at least 20 minutes, period. No matter what, I practice when I'm not touring 5 days a week. But I've learned throughout time that there are certain things that help. And I mean, of course, what I just mentioned, to keep hydrated. If you're flying a lot, you need to keep hydrating your body. So you don't drink caffeine, you don't drink spicy food, like very Ayurvedic oriented, like you drink a lot of water, like room temperature or warm water, all the things that help your body to keep hydrated. When I'm flying, which is, I think to me that's the most challenging thing, especially for the nature of my body. I'm very skinny, and when I fly, I lose a lot of weight, and I can get unbalanced very easy. And as we know, that affect our instrument big time. So when I land and I get into the hotel, first thing I do is I take a tea with ghee, the butter that it's clarified
Uh-huh.
butter. It's a tea, a warm tea of that with that, and that brings this quality of air, bata in Ayurveda, down. It drops it, so you start feeling again your articulations, like lubricated, and your mind settled. So I don't get super foggy, and it contains my body, and that literally helps for my vocal cords, for everything. I prefer to save my energy for the concert, because usually it's not that I have, like, oh yes, we travel and we wait 3 days in the place. It's usually you go and, you know if you're lucky, you arrive the day before. But if not, if you're on a road, probably you have to arrive and go to the venue or whatever. I try to save my energy for that. So I do, I sleep like the most. I close the curtains, I sleep, wake up, do a couple of body work, vocalizing, like my routine that lasts 20 minutes, and which has a lot to do with the body and with warming up. But I usually contain my energy for performance. And because, as we know, to perform takes so much energy. And but I have my techniques, to be on stage and not being drained, but allows energy to circulate, back and forth with the audience, that I learned with actors back in the days. And so I have my techniques to keep the energy going between the audience and the stage. But I try not to, I mean, I don't even have the energy for that anymore. Like I try to sleep and sleep and sleep and sleep.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I'm the same way, actually. Like we
At
always,
a certain age, right? We talked about
yeah,
this before.
yeah, you sleep when, I mean, that's like the mantra for me on touring. It's you sleep when you can and you eat when you can.
Right.
Although the eating is a bit tricky
Right, exactly. You need to eat the right things,
at the right time.
the right time.
Yeah. And enough at the right time. I mean, that's happened to me before where I wasn't eating enough. And then halfway through the concert, I'm completely out of steam.
Do you eat
So
before the concert or after the concert?
I have a snack before the concert. I'm still figuring out, like when I'm playing every night and traveling every day, it's really difficult for me to get the food in, because I know I need to eat enough, but personally I can't stand sitting. Oh God, the promoters are going to hate me for this. But I can't stand sitting down for a restaurant dinner right before the show. I just don't have the mindset. Like
Yeah.
I need to be by myself. I need to sleep. I need to like all the things you just said, sleep, then drink my tea, do my steaming nebulizing. I love that stuff, and warm up and get ready, put my face on.
Also because that, like you cannot be digesting. I mean, you can, but it's not the most ideal thing to do. Like digesting and singing, it's like doesn't. It's not a good combination.
Not conducive, no.
Yeah.
All right, I have a couple more questions for you. You're also a teacher. You know, as we all know, the business has changed a lot. And so what skill set, in your opinion, do young and aspiring singers need to have in order to succeed in today's music business environment? Like, are those like musical skills, social media promotion, personal skills? Like, what would be your top skill? What would you tell a young person who wants to break into this crazy business?
Wow, Elizabeth, that's the la pregunta de los 100,000. That's such that's I guess that question is a question that we ask ourselves every single day.
Yeah, I want those skills.
Exactly. Please tell us, what are those skills? I've been singing for 25 years, and when I think about how I released my first album and how I released my most recent album is like like a completely different story. Not only because I used to live in Mexico and then this is a New York album, it's a completely different circumstance. Answering your question, to me, for my students and younger audiences that will be the future musicians, I mean, the thing that I always say is to have their skills together, because the industry is going to keep changing, and the ways we share our music is going to keep changing and evolving, and probably at some point we're not going to understand anything of anything, but and you're going to have a promoter here, a manager here, a booking agent here, like all the industry that you need around you, the infrastructure that you need in order to function in an international scene. But the only thing that remains with you is yourself and yourself and what you're capable of doing. So to me, I mean, I think because today we have so many tools that we didn't have back in the days when I started as a musician, and that I actually make the life of an independent artist where more easy is, can you sing? Can you write a song? Do you have the muscle, the emotional muscle to be resilient in an artistic career? Like Alex, my husband, would say, your career is not a million likes in a YouTube video, but carrying your drums in New York subway, going to Harlem, and then go back for years. That's what creates the resilience and the muscle to be part of the transformation. So it's not about the transformation and everything we do to learn how things transform, and we keep doing it, you and I and absolutely everyone else. But who are we? What's the core of what you're doing? And understanding that it's a life commitment. We're always learning. I keep learning from my students, from the new generations. I keep listening to new things, and one thing that I love about new generations that I truly love and inspire me is that they don't have
Hmm.
so many preconceptions as my generation, and because all the information it's out there. So back in the days, those who had the information had the power. These days everything is online, so there are not so many preconceptions. So to use that beauty of freedom, to have no preconceptions, to really strengthen what they have to say and how they're saying it. So to me, that's, I mean, and that also create ease the anxiety of the industry. Everything else we can find it online. There are tutors all over the place about, oh, the new trend is social media. Now it's not YouTube, now it's Instagram, now it's X, now it's what, TikTok, whatever, and you will decide where you want to put yourself on, and you will learn. And but what you're able to do and to have the resilience to to navigate the transformations of the industry, that's that's the main thing. And the only thing you can do it is by singing all the time, every day, here and there, in all sorts of circumstances, with in a jazz club, in a theater, everything that we have to go through as musicians throughout time to really strengthen our artistic identity and our resilience throughout the fluctuations of the industry that are so disorienting, really.
I love that you said like have the resilience to navigate the changes of the industry, but also having that resilience by staying focused on your craft, really. I mean, you're talking about craft.
Totally, totally,
Yeah.
because that's and also, I mean, I will add to that the mindset, a flexible mindset to understand that things changes also, and also to have the mindset to understand when it's time to let go of things and be open to new things. And it's resilience and a healthy mindset. And I would add to that that these days in a culture where everybody's screaming out their identity in social media, which didn't happen when we grew up. If you don't have the right mindset, and I said it, with all, starting with myself, we see everybody post in social media how great they are, how great they're doing, how great that everything is, yeah, right. But that's not reality. That's the just the point of the iceberg. So it's very easy to get into the trap of comparison or envy, or well, I'm supposed to be doing that, I'm supposed to be, well, you need to be focused in what you are doing, what you are doing with your craft, with your learning process, with your artistry. When you have the opportunity to be there, as you well said, you have this huge opportunity. Well, everything that you did before that, that's what counts. And then when you have the opportunity, then you have the muscle to release and to share. And so to me, I mean, I think our artists, we have to have such a healthy, strong mindset, and we have to nurture that. That's part of the practice. That's part of the practice, just as singing, to keep a strong, healthy mindset.
And don't believe everything you read on the internet. You have been on the scene now quite successfully for quite some time. But as you just said earlier, you've been singing for 25 years now in public, I would assume. A lot has happened. The scene has changed. I would say the profession has changed since you've started out. Have your priorities and has your focus changed over the years? And if so, in what way?
I mean, I think when you start as a singer, I mean, what I wanted to see, I saw these incredible singers that I loved, Elis Regina, or Gal Costa, or Cassandra Wilson, and, like the singers that I loved. And, I was like, okay, I want to have that kind of career. And, like I was focused very much in compare it again, in compare myself into what I wanted to build. I guess throughout the years and throughout working hard and being, use my imagination and my creativity to, create my career, and understanding that everyone has the right and the possibility to create. What I'm trying to say is that all roads lead to Rome, and there is no one way to do things. And usually in the industry, there are formulas, right? Like now you do this and that, social media, or before it was like this or like that. So talking about mindset and flexibility, I always knew that because of where I come from, and I wasn't lucky to attend a music school when I was 10 years old or 12 years old. Like my career, my music life has been revealed in a very specific way. So I have to use the muscle of my creativity to find my ways to create the career that makes sense to me, and that nurtures what I need, and that nurtures the audiences that share my music and that enjoy my music. So the priorities before were to build a career. That was my focus. Okay, let's create steadiness and muscle and presence. And I guess today my priorities are permanence, right? Permanence and legacy. So for many years you learn. We keep learning, of course, till the day we die. But right now I'm very focused in how can I mean, I think the things that you don't share, they get stuck. And so how can you share what you know in whatever way makes sense to you. How can you share the knowledge, not only musically, but about the industry, about, what we're doing here, what, this thing that you're doing is part of it. How can you create a legacy? How can you share with the world? We belong to a community. How can we share that? How can we create legacy? And also, super important for me at this point in my career is how can I create long-lasting relationships with my audience, with the presenters, with my community, with my managers and agents, and how can I create long-lasting relationships? And because we grow together, and living in New York, that's very, very difficult. So I try to prioritize that. And I mean, we live in the same city and we never see each other in person, right? Talking about nurturing communities. But I think to me that's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And of course, everything else that gives you permanence, right? A new production that resonates with your musicianship, and also, we're in a certain time in our lives that you think, okay, security. What's security for me? What does security means to me? Like before, actually, I was talking about that yesterday with Alex. Like these days, in order for me to create, I need to feel secure, and I need to feel, safe and secure and grounded. I didn't think about these things when I was 20 years old. So I need a bigger apartment in New York. And we have our house in Mexico City, in Mexico, in San Miguel, where we can just spend some time with space. Like I think these days I need connection too. I need connection. Something that I really, really want to focus on, connection.
What I'm learning more and more over the years is that you build your career, your life, whatever it is you do, really one person at a time. Now, that sounds a bit like a slog, but I mean, we all, what I see, and also like when I talk to people and listen to what people say, there's so much disconnect all around. And so it doesn't really matter, I feel like, almost like what career you're in, we want to connect. And somebody wants to connect to you. Somebody wants to connect specifically to your music, specifically to your art, to what you have to say. And then that is the connection that you want to nurture.
Yeah, well said. And also because, yeah, because I mean, you understand throughout time that's what matters, right? Like why are we making music in the first place? Why are we making music in the first place, right? What
Excellent question.
right? So why are we doing this? Who are we fitting by doing music? What's the outcome of creating music? I mean, those are questions I think that the answer will change throughout time. But to me, right now, it's such a strong, because as much as we are living in New York City and, it's a very strong scene and blah, 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 we're very isolated. We're very isolated. It's New York City. Everybody's busy. So you don't really have a true connection, community connection. So to me, I'm trying to understand how can you nurture that? How can I reconnect with my audience in Mexico, for instance, by playing music that I haven't played in 25 years? Like trying to find, and then it's a completely different emotional connection, my audience in Mexico than my audience in New York or than my audience in Spain. It's trying to understand how do I connect, and that will create and help will create legacy, and also hopefully inspiring new generations. At least, I mean, for me as a Mexican, like hopefully new generations of Mexican singers will have the opportunity to have an international career and to have, for them to be living their dreams and create the career that they want.
Yeah. Bit of a trailblazer.
See.
See. All right. One more question. So, looking back across time to your 18-year-old self, what would be the one thing you wish you could tell her from where you stand today?
I would say that you don't have to hurry up. That will that needs to that you need to live and experience will come to you. You don't have to rush. Just trust on that. You will live what you have to live, and trust on that truth. I live with a lot of, you know for so many years, and what it has to come, and whatever has to everything that I have experienced, which is a beautiful life. If you I live doing what I love. I travel the world doing it. You know, it's I feel blessed and grateful about it. I have worked my mucho. I have worked a lot. I keep working a lot, but it's a beautiful life. I'm living my dream. So I wish I didn't add so much anxiety to the equation. Probably
Yeah. Trust.
trust.
Trust and don't be in a hurry. Kind
Exactly.
of. Yeah. We can all use that, I think, even now. And
Yeah.
now even more, I feel like, okay. Thank you so much, Magos, for sharing your time and your wisdom with us. So one more time, on February 29th, you will be at Carnegie Hall with, tell us again.
Nights. I'm going to be their guest for a very special night at Zankel Hall on February 29th with the Knights. And then another announcement that it's very exciting. On March 21st, for New Yorkers, I'm going to be in Music of Americas in Park Avenue with duo with a beautiful singer that I love, that I grew up listening to her music. Her name is Monica Salmazo from Brazil. We'll be singing together on March 21st. And I'm going to be on the road from March on. So check out my website because we're going to be touring in the US and Mexico. So find your city.
And your website is magosherrera.com. I'll put it below here so people can see it. And yeah, check out her music. She's got so much music out. Check out her album, her new album, Aire, out now. And many, many more. Thank you so much, Magos, again.
And yes, thank you so much. Lovely to. We should do this more often.
Well, maybe we should go for a drink or something.
There you go.
All right. Thank you so much. And see you very soon. Bye.